Okay, you guys asked for this. I did too. I wanted to make this video, but it got way out of hand. Let me explain. My plan was to make one video combining my favorite brands, particularly focusing on designer and niche brands, as one video, and to choose 10 or less.
And I don't know why I didn't foresee that being a complete disaster.
I was like, well, what about this brand? What about this brand? I'm already at 10. What do I do? And I was like, well, I don't want to make a top 20. I don't want to sit here for 45 minutes and make you guys watch a 20-minute video. I wanted to avoid this, but we're splitting it up. We're doing niche first. For context, if you are completely lost, I did a video recently, you can check it out here, where I talked about my top fragrance brands based on wearings. I track all my wearings and I ordered up my top brands based on total wearings from every fragrance I own from each brand. It was a very interesting exercise, but it wasn't completely reflective of my taste, at least my current taste. To be honest with you, it's really hard to pick one top brand. If I had to order up all the brands, you would assume that the one at the top is the one that does it all. And that just simply isn't the case. I'm like you, I have different favorites from different brands that I pick and choose from, and they all kind of create this amalgamation of my favorite fragrances. Nonetheless, I wanted to rank these brands, niche brands in this case, in order of how they capture my attention across the offerings that I have, especially when choosing to wear fragrance for a particular occasion. I'll be showcasing my top 3 fragrances from each brand. I have more than 3 from all of these brands, and I have several brands that I only have 1 to 2 bottles from, and I excluded those from this list mainly because I don't believe it's an accurate representation of my experience across all of the brand's offerings. If I don't have a ton of fragrances from them that I actively wear and speak about, I can't put them in a list like this. Just being real. So that is the extent of my preamble. This is crazy, but let's dive right into it. In the 8th spot, I have 6 bottles from this house, Kilian. The reason why I like Kilian is they have a specificity to them in their aesthetic, especially the name Kilian Hennessy. You think of booze, those types of products, and they come through in Kilian's fragrances. And I really love that. Not all of their fragrances, but many of them do have this focus on some kind of alcoholic beverage. My current top 3 fragrances from the brand stand as follows. Black Phantom, the newest to my collection. Still have to give it some real true full wearings from the bottle this season, but I've loved it ever since I have been rocking decants for the past several years. Number 2 is Apple Brandy on the Rocks. This is a very easy to wear, fresh, apple, spicy, woody, sweet fragrance, perfectly a fall scent. Definitely has this icy cooling freshness, so the name suits it perfectly, but this is an easy daytime wear. Not the most intriguing scent, but it does something to me when I wear it. And my top favorite is currently Straight to Heaven. That was my first love from the house. It still remains my favorite. It is not everyone's favorite. It is not one you're going to see in every video, but there's something about it I find so captivating. It's a very unique blend. Boozy rum, very, very boozy, with this dry cedarwood, slightly sweet vanilla and dried fruits, a lot of earthy patchouli, so it's kind of damp. I don't know what it is about this fragrance, but it smells so classy and elegant, yet very off the wall to me. It's just fun to wear. Moving on to the 7th spot, Xerjoff. I have 7 bottles from Xerjoff. I want to say almost 50% of the bottles I currently own from Xerjoff I acquired just this year in 2023. You're not going to see the huge crowd favorite Naxos. I know you would expect to see that. I just don't have it. I've been contemplating getting it for a few years now. We'll see if I do. But my current favorites stand at number 3, Zefiro. This is a beautiful kind of bright incense fragrance, an interesting white wine accord, a little bit resinous, a little sweet, but wispy and smoky and woody. Something mysterious about it, but also kind of easygoing. Again, does come off a little bit brighter in terms of incense fragrances, and it just smells very luxurious. Number 2 would have to be Ivory Route. This is one of the newest Xerjoffs to my collection, and it swept me away. It was between Ivory Route and 40 Knots as the 2nd place spot. I've had 40 Knots for longer, but the wearing experience of Ivory Route has captured me more. It's a little bit less head tilting when I wear it than 40 Knots can be. 40 Knots can be a little strange at times. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood for it, but on a chilly day or evening, I'm more than likely going to be in the mood for Ivory Route or something like it. That warm, spicy, almost sweet vanilla creamy feel that is relatively relatively simple to be honest, but there's something cozy yet elegant about it that I just love when I wear it. And my number one is still Renaissance. That still steals my heart. It is a summer staple for me as far as niche fragrances go. It is this bright, lemony, lime, minty fragrance with this beautiful, rich, kind of sexy, ambery, musky, warm, dry down. It hangs around on my skin pretty much all day long. It is a go-to fragrance for the summer when I need something to last me throughout the whole day that's gonna smell fresh all day and is gonna have interest and allure to it. And that's the House of Xerjoff. Many people might be mad that this made the list, but I could not leave this out. This brand is a part of the beginnings, the initiation of my fragrance journey in terms of me getting excited about niche perfumery and diving deeper into it. The House of Creed. Let's just call them a great gateway house. Unfortunately, they're not much of a gateway in terms of your wallet, not the most accessible, but if you can get some samples, they are some of the easiest on the nose niche fragrances you can get. And I know they might be watering things down, whatever have you, especially when you compare it to the price of the bottles going up. But as I say, if you haven't tried a fragrance yet and you're considering getting it, you don't even need to worry about the price of a full bottle until you get a sample. See how you feel from a sample. You're only gonna spend, probably less than 20 bucks depending on the size and on the fragrance. And you're really not out very much and you can make an assessment from there. So don't even sweat the price of a full bottle. But Creed occupies 12 bottles out of my collection. They are some of my most worn bottles in my collection. And again, I've loved many of them over the years. My top three are currently Original Vetiver, a clean, slightly green, fresh, soapy vetiver that is not very woody, not very dry or dark or smoky or leathery like vetiver can be. It is super duper squeaky clean, very easy to wear, very bright, open and airy, but does dry down to this beautiful, almost creamy, musky sandalwood base. It does get really smooth on the skin and it just feels good and it smells great. Number two is Viking. Viking is a polarizing one, not everyone's favorite, but it is a gentleman's classic if you're asking me. It takes somewhat of a vintage type of profile that is based in a fougere, almost a barbershop type scent, that classic aromatic, fresh, spicy kind of fragrance profile, little creamy, little sweet, herbal, woody, and it modernizes it. It does make it more modern, but still smells perhaps a little bit mature, just very sophisticated smelling stuff, kind of cool and warm at the same time. Very minty, but hot, fiery pink pepper, classy woods as it dries down. It's just good all around for me. And my number one is Royal Oud, and I know Royal Oud is also kind of a polarizing one, and it was for me when I first tried it. When I first smelled it years ago, I had a 10 milliliter decant. I could not handle it. It smelled like I was sticking my face into a Christmas tree, and it just wasn't my thing, but I kept coming back to it over the course of a couple years. Each wearing, it grew on me more and more until I'm like, this stuff is kind of a masterpiece. I need to get a bottle. I've had a bottle for a couple years and I thoroughly enjoyed wearing it. It's a dry, fresh, woody fragrance, and it's mostly cedar wood more than it is oud. A little bit of spices in there, a little bit of a kind of green, dusty quality, and almost a little bit sweet, but it's just tucked away in this very dry, woody profile that smells utterly elegant. Great on an evening out that's a little bit more upscale. Works perfect. With 7 bottles in my collection, definitely one of the more popular fragrance houses to come out of Turkey. This is Nishane. Nishane is known for their very powerful, rich, robust fragrance profiles that feature some very unique scent personalities, interesting combinations of ingredients, some that just kind of rub people the wrong way. But I have fallen in love with the house, not because they're the strongest fragrances you can buy, not because they will get you noticed and all that, but they just capture my attention as far as being a lover of scent goes. My top 3 from Nishane are currently number 3, Fan Your Flames. Fan Your Flames was actually the first fragrance I ever tried from the house. Kind of my first love, really got me pulled into the house to learn more about them. I don't wear it a whole lot these days. It is a very particular scent profile. I kind of describe it as smelling like a boozy hookah lounge, but that really doesn't do it justice at all. There is this rich kind of sweet pipe tobacco feel that's a little smoky and woody, and that is blended with this interesting alcoholic beverage feel, like a pina colada without the pineapple. There's coconut, there's rum. It's kind of sugary and sweet, but again, dark, ambery, woody, and smoky, and a just totally different type of scent profile, very unique. Number 2 would have to be B612. This is easily the most versatile of my Nishane fragrances. I think it does happen to be my most worn from the house, but it isn't the most captivating profile to me. It was at one point when I first got it. It's basically a modern fougere. It's kind of a stripped away, very contemporary type of barbershop fragrance. Still has that creamy sweetness, still has an almost soapy, clean freshness. Does have this cozy, warm, woody dry down. It does have this interesting sharpness to it from cypress and cashmeran, and that is an element that not everyone loves. That does turn some people off, but it is what makes B612 stand out as a fantastic and must-try fougere. And number 1 for me currently, I got it this year. It has swept me off my feet. That is Popule Fico. I don't know how to explain it, but it just smells alluring yet classy all at the same time. It does have this kind of fresh aromatic quality to it, very welcoming, but it is immediately sweet and resinous. It is mossy, it is spicy. There's a beautiful cardamom in here, which I think brings that sexy appeal that I just cannot get enough of. It just makes me feel very handsome when I wear it. I like to wear it day or night when I'm dressed up a little bit more elegantly, definitely more than this polo shirt. But I just love that X factor I get when I wear this. I love the feeling I get when it's around me, and my wife loves it in the air when I wear it. At number 4, the House of Argos. This is one of those brands that puts a lot into their fragrances. You can tell the quality of these fragrances from every inch of the bottle to the juice inside to the stories. Everything weaving together is just impressive, and when you get it in your hand, you know. And those of you who have tried it, I think you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of substance here. All the fragrances I own from Argos were gifted to me, but I've been rocking with the brand ever since they started back in 2017. I have 9 different fragrances from Argos. I have more than 9 bottles, but I do have some duplicates because I have different sizes of a few fragrances. But my top 3 currently are: number 3 is Dane. Dane is one of these fragrances that is very easy to wear. It's actually relatively versatile, but I would reserve it for more for the evening time. Incredibly attractive. It's almost mainstream leaning in its profile, but in its quality, in how the composition comes together, it smells of the highest quality ingredients. Dane is kind of like this golden smelling fragrance. There's like golden, sweet, soft, creamy woods and spices. It's warm. It is seductive. That is the one word I could use to describe Dane. And it's also incredibly powerful. Leaves a beautiful trail when you wear it. I like to reserve it for when I want to make a statement, but I want to make it with class, with quality. And again, even though it's a very easy to understand profile, there is substance there. Number 2 and number 1 have fought for the top spot back and forth for years now. It's really hard to choose between them, but I would have to choose my number 2 as Brivido della Caccia. One of the most polarizing fragrances from the house. It is a very sharp green mate with smoky birchwood, with leather, with fresh cooling juniper berry. It is a very pervasive profile. It's very specific, but it does have this classiness, and everything I described might seem pretty sharp and in your face, but it does have this beautiful, almost sweet, creamy tonka bean or vanilla tucked in there that comes out more on the skin. It kind of smooths out, spreads out, and becomes more rounded around the edges and smells very sexy in a very different way. So I love Brivido della Caccia when I want a very green and interesting fragrance. Number 1 still has to go to Triumph of Bacchus. It is one of the most attractive, sweet, boozy tobacco fragrances in my collection. It smells so high class, but to be honest with you, I am really waiting on that X-Straight. So that might come and take its place. It is yet to be determined, and we will find out soon. Roja Parfums is at number 3. Roja Parfums, honestly, in my previous top brands video, it is easily one of my most worn brands, but I omitted it from the video simply because it comprises one of my largest collections in my entire fragrance collection. I have 26 bottles from Roja Parfums, and all of them were gifted to me. I did not buy any of them. I'm just being upfront with you guys, and it just didn't feel fair to include them in my most worn video among other fragrances, just because with so many, it would make sense how I would have so many wears from them. So it just kind of offset the scale in a way I didn't feel was right to include. But they are one of my favorite brands. They have been one of my favorite niche brands for many years now. I've talked about them a lot over the years, and I have several standout favorites, 3 of which are at number 3, Scandal. Scandal used to be a little bit higher up. It was an absolute love for me from first sniff. It has dipped down a little bit just because I've had others come in and kind of capture my interest more, but Scandal is a gentlemanly, masculine barbershop fougere, paying homage to older scent profiles. Almost has a little bit of Dior Eau Sauvage in there, but just with way more substance and beef and bass to it, but a little bit of a funky edge. Just a touch of an edge that makes it kind of scandalous, and I just love the feeling I get wearing it. Number 2 would have to be Burlington 1819. This is not everyone's cup of tea, but this is a beautiful summer night fragrance for me. I love wearing it for more elegant nights out when there's still some warmth in the air. It is a boozy citrus, lots of grapefruit, lots of spice, like a dripping wet ambery rum as it dries down, and the cumin note is what kind of turns some people off, and I get that. It's pretty heavy in the scent, and for some reason it adds an edge to the scent that just makes me feel like I have an edge when I'm in the room, and I just smell super classy. Love Burlington. It is a bit of a love or hate though. And my number 1 is still Oligarch. That is my first true love from the house. When I got my nose on this almost 6 years ago, my mind was blown. This stuff blew me away, and I still have my original Eau de Parfum bottle, which in my opinion is still the best version of it, but I am happy to see it back on the market under the Isola Blue name. I think it is still a perfect profile to check out under this new name. Not quite exactly the same behaving scent as the Eau de Parfum was. It is based on Oligarch Parfum, which replaced the Eau de Parfum. It's a richer, heavier version of the Eau de Parfum. Sits a little closer to the skin, maybe not quite as diffusive and fresh, but still has the magic of the DNA in there. Number 2, people might consider a conflict of interest. It is Zaharov. I could not exclude Zaharov because of the aesthetic. Objectively speaking, which you might find impossible for me to do, looking at the house of Zaharov, looking at what has gone on behind the scenes, George's career up to this point, everything that he pours into his creations, it is true artistry, and he holds nothing back as far as quality goes. If you knew what George puts into these fragrances, guys, your jaw would be on the floor. I have stake in the brand because I have my own fragrances from the brand, but I feel grateful to have been given the gift of using George's platform, using his mind, his artistry, his imagination, and his resources, melding it with my own creative vision to create fragrances using the same quality he puts into every single one of his products. They are so thoughtfully made. My number 3 would have to be Signature Royale X. This is one that you must love musk for. It's kind of a simple but not basic musky woody fragrance, a little bit of citrus in there, kind of fresh and clean but also kind of dirty. It does have a very interesting inspiration behind it. Number 2 is Signature Rosé, as I like to call it, a rose fragrance for rose lovers and rose haters. Rose and incense, kind of a cooling, wispy, smoky incense that's not dry or really fiery smelling, blended with several varieties of opulent rose, a little bit chocolatey and woody as it dries down. It just smells like one of the most unique rose fragrances I've tried that's still highly wearable and approachable and very elegant. And my number 1, just gonna be real, guys. For me, it's me in a bottle. My fragrance Second Soul, which I could tie with its predecessor Brass and Soul. These fragrances are what I would want to smell like forever if I could choose a scent, especially my newest fragrance, Second Soul. If you wanna know my fragrance taste, truly down to the ingredients, down to an overall scent profile, you don't even really need to listen to me talk. You can just go try Second Soul and you'll have an idea of what I'm going for. And if you have the luxury of trying both of my fragrances and paying attention to the story arc that binds them together, you get an even deeper look into what my intentions are with this perfume game, with what I'm trying to imbue from my little corner of the world. Nonetheless, that is the House of Zaharov. Many of you can attest to them. Incredible house. And number one, this was tough. As I said, not an easy decision to make, but one of these houses that almost every fragrance I own from them, when I do happen to wear them, and I don't wear them all with the same frequency, but when I do wear them, I never regret spraying them on. I never wish I sprayed something else. They capture my attention with their richness, with their complexity, but also with the aesthetic. They have this unified aesthetic among all the offerings in the brand. I'm really looking for that when I'm looking to appreciate a niche perfume brand. They need to have some through line, and this brand is pretty consistent with their through line, with their olfactory identity, and as it plays into the imagery and the vision and the feelings they try to convey through their fragrances, and that is Amouage. I have 11 fragrances from Amouage. I want to say about half of which I've received from the brand and the other half I have bought with my own money. I've been a fan of this brand for years now, ever since I first smelled Reflection Man. That is my most worn from the house at this point, but it is not my favorite in terms of taste. I don't wear it quite as much these days, but let me tell you the 3 that I really love. Number 3 is currently Overture Man. Overture is not an easy everyday wear. It's not a go-to for me, but it's a scent profile that sometimes I'll take off the cap and I'll just smell it just to smell it, even if I'm not gonna wear it. It is just enchanting to me. It is this sweet, rich, boozy cognac with dark smoky woods and animalic notes and spices. It is rough around the edges. It is not a welcoming scent, but it is utterly authoritative. It's a confident scent profile that I wear when I'm feeling confident and I want to go out into the evening, dressed my best, making an impact and impression on people, even if they don't tell me I smell good. Compliments, they're great when they come, but I don't wear Amouage for that. Number 2, Beach Hut Man. This could have easily been number 1 several years ago. There's another one that captures me a little bit more, and many of you probably already know what it is, but Beach Hut Man is a staple on this channel. Many of you have tried it from my recommendation, and I'm thrilled. So many of you have liked it. I know a lot of you haven't, and I totally get that. I wouldn't expect everyone to like a scent like this. It's very green, woody, minty, strong and powerful. Smells a little bit vintage, a little bit mature, but if you like a strong green woody fragrance, and I'm talking about green, if that sounds good to you, this is one you have to try. It is easily a statement maker. And number 1, Enclave. I don't know what it is about Enclave. It is this perfect balance and blend of some of my favorite elements. I love when a fragrance features cool and warm elements. I love the juxtaposition of contrast. I kind of modeled my fragrance Second Soul the same way, but that type of balance with these 2 opposites working together, and Enclave nails that with its fresh cooling mint and fresh spicy cardamom working with this kind of sweet, warm, rich, leathery, sticky, smoky, ashy labdanum. And you have this duality working together that just smells elegant, very unique, and a little bit edgy on my skin. But the wearing experience, again, that sillage I'm getting in the air, it just captures me. And my wife loves it when I wear it. I love that I can smell it all day long because it is a scent profile that evolves on my skin, and I want to smell something like that all day long. Well, that's gonna do it for me. That was a lot of fragrances to describe. Wow, I hope you enjoyed it. There's gonna be links to, I guess, all the fragrances down in the description, if I have links that will fit in the description. I only have so many characters I can use, but I wanna know what you think of these houses, what you think of my ranking here. I know there's gonna be tons of debate about what house is better than what. You guys know this is subjective. You know that we could debate each other until we're all in the grave. There's no winning with that. Just tell me what you think, what you observed, and what your favorites are. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.